Alright, and I'm streaming. I'm gonna talk about why Swayzee is wrong. I'm gonna try to make this quick. You can say hi. Nobody's online, but you can say hi. I love you. Alright. I'm gonna make this quick because if I don't make this quick, I'm going to ruin my whole day. And I just want to talk about one point in this video, and also we are celebrating Holy today, and I have better things to do with my time. I've got 20 minutes on the timer because I gotta check on the powder again in 20 minutes. And I've got blue and yellow, or not blue, I've got green. I've got green and yellow, and I need to make blue. I've decided that those are the colors we're going to do. Don't get me started on our holy celebration. I'm very excited. All right, so I'm going to use a clip from, who is this? The Personal Philosophy Project. They went over Unnatural Vegan's video. They made a lot of great points. I've watched a few videos on this. I feel like people are skipping over one certain point here that I really wish people wouldn't skip over. Let me see if it'll get the audio here. I don't think it's catching my audio, so let me... Ooh. Oh, I'm not gonna say it's turned to his neighbor. It sounded like he fell down the steps. Hey, I was making sure that you didn't just fall down the steps upstairs, but I think it was the upstairs neighbor making noise. Just making sure you're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm outside already.
Okay. I love you.
I love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Alright. Well, let's see how that works.
Who isn't familiar
There
with
we go.
homophobia.
Okay. And that feels like it's really loud. Can I make that? I'll just turn this quieter. Alright. So, we're going to go over Swayzee's claim here in the middle of this video here, taking this clip from Personal Philosophy Project. So, alright, let's just have Swayzee talking here.
She goes on to clarify.
I don't believe any of this, and I think homophobia is wrong.
Yes, I think a lot of people agree homophobia is wrong. Thanks, Swayzee. I'm sorry. I'm going to have an attitude.
Regardless, whether you're talking about choice or not. But it really suggests that he is just not very familiar with the opposition.
So, Swayzee has presented that D'Angelo is not familiar with the opposition. Let's see how D'Angelo is not familiar with the opposition.
By saying that homophobia is not related to choice.
So Swayzee is stating that D'Angelo, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, is unfamiliar with the opposition because D'Angelo is presenting that homophobia has nothing to do with the choice of being gay.
It's not D'Angelo.
And this was the part I wanted to go over.
Like, i.e. getting married or being in an intimate relationship.
Even the most
conservative. So, from the Nashville statement, signed by more than 150 evangelical leaders, Nashville statement, when have Christians or any religious organization agreed on anything? Nashville statement is an evangelical Christian statement of faith relating to human sexuality and gender roles, authored by the Council on Biblical Manhood and Womanhood in Nashville, Tennessee. This is back in 2017. What is the controversial Nashville statement? Let's see, who is... And also, how is this representative of all homophobia? How does this disprove all homophobia? And how does this state, like, okay, so are we just going to state that if the Westboro Baptist Church does something, therefore, if they do something, and if they do something hateful, okay, that's the limit of what hateful things religious people can do. But if the Westboro Baptist Church doesn't do something hateful, therefore nobody else does something hateful because the Westboro Baptist Church is the most hateful. I don't know about you, but that doesn't make any sense to me. They're evangelical Christian. I'm not seeing anything here that makes them an authority on anything. And even if they are an authority, that doesn't exclude that other people can be homophobic in different ways. That doesn't exclude that other organizations can be homophobic in different ways. This doesn't... there are plenty of organizations that aren't directly religiously related that are homophobic. But so I feel like she uses this one source here. We affirm that people who experience sexual attraction for the same sex may live a rich and fruitful life pleasing to God through faith in Jesus Christ as they, like all Christians, walk in purity of life. We deny that sexual attraction for the same sex is part of the natural goodness of God's original creation, or that it puts a person outside of the hope of gospel. We deny that sexual attraction for the same sex is part of the natural goodness of God's original creation. So you kind of have to interpret here, but that's how religion is. The way I'm interpreting this is that they're saying not even just the act, they're not stating the act of being gay, which right here in the source that Swayzee put, which is what Swayzee is saying here. She's saying that the act of being gay is what people are homophobic towards. But this right here says the sexual attraction is not of God. So it's not about acting on it or not. It's about having the feeling of being gay. It's about being sexually attracted to somebody. They're saying it's not of God. So they're denouncing gay people in her own quote here. How? I don't understand.
Conservative evangelical out there will acknowledge that humans have desires, and sometimes they're homosexual ones, and they'll say to repress it and marry a woman anyway.
Okay. So she hasn't defined bigotry here. She has decided, I need to hear a little bit more about
There
this.
will acknowledge that
People
having that orientation isn't a choice, but obviously being in a gay relationship is a choice.
So she's conflating veganism, the act of being vegan, to the act of being gay. And
on the same level as
Homophobia?
bigotry.
Veganism is a choice, sure, and that obviously makes it different from racism and sexism. But homophobia? Having that orientation isn't a choice, but obviously being in a gay relationship is a choice.
So her whole argument here is that homophobia is about the choice of being gay, and then is conflating the two. But then when she's confronted on that she's conflating the two, she's like, I'm not conflating the two. She goes, obviously I know gay people are killed for being gay and vegans aren't killed for being vegan, but I don't understand why you're even like addressing this argument at all, besides the fact that Swayzee seems to have this weird soft spot for that vegan teacher. And even though that vegan teacher is doing things that Swayzee has spent the last 5, 6, 7 years criticizing other vegans for doing, now suddenly when that vegan teacher is doing it, it's okay. I don't understand where this pivot has come from. She recently came out, I'm going to try not to go on a tangent here. She recently came out with basically blaming wives for having their husbands cheat on them. And she was kind of promoting non-monogamy when literally 6 months ago, let me show this. When literally 6 months ago, she made a video about monogamy is boring and that's okay. Oh, sorry. I don't know. I'm a Luddite. So, Unnatural Vegan. So we've got controversial thoughts on cheating, aka just don't tweet. And then that's okay. And then literally 6 months ago, so we got 3 months ago, monogamy is boring and that's okay, from 7 months ago. Like a complete 180. She's defending monogamy here, and then like turns around and says, well, if your husbands cheat on you, maybe you should just go into non-monogamy, or just let them have sex with other women, because if monogamy's boring for him, that's your fault. Swayzee, what is happening? Okay, so I'm not gonna, I could rant forever about the pivots I have seen from Swayzee. Is my audio coming through? Shit, have I been talking to myself? Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see my, little mic green thing. It scared me. All right. Okay, so Swayzee at no point defines bigotry. So, for her sake, I went and looked up the definition. Definition of bigotry: obstinate or unreasonable attachment to a belief, opinion, or faction. In particular, prejudice against a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular group. So nowhere in the definition of bigotry does it talk about choice. And this is relevant because we were talking about homophobia. Homophobia is a form of bigotry, and Swayzee is making a stance here that homophobia is only about the choice of being gay, only upon acting about being gay, even though in the source she cited, they said that being gay is not of God. Having a sexual attraction of the LGB variety is not of God. So even in her quote, she's being contradictory, and she highlighted the part that was convenient to her and ignored the part on screen that dismantled her whole argument. So if we're going to talk about how, let's prove how this isn't about choice. Oh, I have an anecdote here. I will admit this is an anecdote. I know somebody personally who went to donate blood a year ago. This was at the beginning of 2020, right before everything went crazy. This is the beginning of the 2020. I have a friend who went to donate blood. He is a very effeminate man, and they denied him donating blood because they assumed he's gay. He is straight, and at least at the time was a virgin. That's not the act of being gay. He was discriminated against for seeming gay. How is it? So is he supposed to not act effeminate? Is that? So him acting effeminate and just living as his personality, a personality that affects every aspect of his life, he's supposed to somehow hide that the way vegans can hide their dietary choices? So that's not a choice. We have to talk about Trump. I don't understand how one of the most hostile presidents for the last 4 years towards the LGBT plus community, I don't understand how Swayzee can see that, and I know she's not an idiot. I know she's seen it. I don't understand how Swayzee can see that and determine, oh, well, homophobia is just about choice. I grabbed a couple articles here. Here's an argument I wanted to make. The Pulse Club shooting, June 12th, 2019. Was that just about the people being in a gay club and they just shouldn't have been in the gay club, and they got shot at and they got killed and those people died because of the act of being gay? What about straight people in that club? Straight people go to gay clubs. What if I don't know if we know for sure if straight people were in that club, but they could have died. Some of the victims could have been straight people. And regardless of if it is or not, it doesn't change that it shouldn't have happened. I am not aware of any vegan restaurants that are having systemic mass shootings where people are getting killed regularly for being vegan. I don't understand why Swayzee needs to be oppressed so bad. It's so freaking weird. So we talked about Trump administration. Here's Trump administration again weakens LGBT protections. Previously, a federal regulation expressly prohibited health and welfare programs receiving federal funding from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. But the administration's new rule, first proposed in 2019, erases this language. It also deletes a requirement that recipients recognize the marriages of same-sex couples, replacing it with a generic statement that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services will respect Supreme Court decisions. The previous regulation was used to ensure adoption and foster care agencies who receive federal support serve all qualified parents, including same-sex couples. Rolling back existing non-discrimination protections will harm those families, as well as the many kids awaiting placement in loving and supporting homes. Yes, this could just be about the people who choose to get married to a member of the same sex, but also this is going to have and has had a domino effect, and before this it had a domino effect where if one member or both members of the party, they're in a straight marriage and state that they're bisexual, they can get denied for being bisexual. So they are not acting upon being gay, they are in straight relationships, but are discriminated against because of their sexual orientation. There are lots of bisexual people who are in straight relationships and marriages, and they get treated like absolute garbage because they're bisexual. There are still plenty of people who believe in 2021 that if a person is bisexual, that they are unfaithful. That's not anything about being even if they've never had a partner of the same sex before, there are people who believe that they cannot be faithful because they are bisexual. That's nothing to do with the act of being gay. I want to talk about... Let's see. I know Biden has put in a lot to help this, which is great, but that also still proves that bigotry is still alive and well. There are lots of people who are very upset at the Gender Equality Act that Biden has put in, and they are not upset because now gay people can just choose to act gay. It's not about that. Let's see. It is one of many rules and regulations put forward by the Trump administration that defines sex discrimination as only applying when someone faces discrimination for being male or female, and does not protect people from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. Supporters of the new rule said this is a necessary reversal of Obama-era executive overreach. So how is protecting people who, or how is removing protection from people based on the fact that they're transgender or gay or lesbian or bisexual all just purely about the act of being gay? How is that? Because these are clearly bigoted acts. Let's see what the final rule does. I want to see stuff about medical. He also said the rule could save hospitals and insurers others $2.9 billion over 5 years, since they will be relieved of the requirement to print notices of non-discrimination in several languages and include them with any significant mailings. That's awful. Under the new rule, a transgender person could, for example, be refused care for a checkup at a doctor's office, said Lindsay Dawson, Associate Director of HIP Policy at the Kaiser Family Foundation. Other possible scenarios include a transgender man being denied treatment for ovarian cancer, or a hysterectomy not being covered by an insurer, or costing more when the procedure is related to someone's gender transition. So how is that about the act of being gay or transgender? I know Swayzee didn't bring up transgender, but a lot of the things that target LGBT people or LGB people also affect transgender people, so we just have to discuss them. So can be refused care for checkup at a doctor's office. Gay men can be refused HIV testing because they're gay and ew, icky, which, yes, that could be argued the act of being gay, but Swayzee kind of conflates vegans getting bullied and acts like the extent of homophobia is... That's the powder. Swayzee acts like the extent of homophobia is people getting called the F word, when it's not. There's a systemic issue with animal cruelty and capitalism, and there's a systemic issue where they're with animals, but that's not targeted at vegans. That is targeted at animals. And vegans are not being systematically oppressed because there is systematic animal cruelty. LGBTQ plus people are being systematically oppressed because of legislation that has been put forward, that is constantly being fought. And I don't understand how Swayze is conflating the two, because she is too smart to be thinking that these things are actually true. I don't know why she's presenting these things, and I don't know why she's acting like the Nashville statement, and this one source from the Nashville statement debunks all bigotry and acts like all other forms of bigotry doesn't exist, and acts like, oh well, look at this conservative church who says it's fine to be gay as long as you don't act to being gay, even though in the thing she quotes, even though in the thing she puts on screen, it says that we think that being attracted to somebody of the same sex is not of God, which is pretty much a big denouncing thing to say in Christianity. Like, maybe Swayzee's too far out of religion to understand the little nuances of religion, but that's what that means. When they say, well, it's not of God, that is the next step is conversion camps. And I'm not escalating here. That's just what it is. If it's not of God, they must get rid of it because it's not of God, it's of the devil. Like, sure, they didn't say that, but that's how religion works. Let's see. So even with the rule now finalized, an LGBTQ person who's discriminated against or denied healthcare can still sue. That's not helpful. I mean, I get this site, it's not NPR, so I'm sure they're just trying to... Oh, well, and actually, you know what? They actually make my argument for me. Because of limited access to litigation, I think that it's fair to state that the ramifications of this rule could be pretty significant. The people who are going to need help the most from their rights being taken away are people who can't sue, people who don't have the time and money and energy and ability to fight for their rights. That's why the rest of us able people have to do it, and that's why we can't let people like Swayzee act like bigotry is solved because she doesn't personally know any homophobes. We can't act like bigotry is solved because if you say you're against gay marriage, you're outdated. We can't act like bigotry is solved because Biden's president. That's not how this works, and I just don't understand. But I feel like that's all the big points I wanted to make. Swayzee completely misdefined bigotry. First off, she didn't define bigotry. You're left to speculate what she believes bigotry is, which is fantastic. She uses one source from the Nashville statement and says they're the most conservative, which they may or may not be, but doesn't change anything. She goes, they're the most conservative, so therefore bigotry doesn't exist. Completely misrepresents the quote she puts on screen and then acts like LGBTQ plus whatever, and I keep throwing transgender into there, and we're talking about gay and bisexual, but as I've talked about, there are some overlapping things, and I'm not trying to diminish anybody. But she talks about lesbian and gay homophobia, and I've completely lost my train of thought. I was really trying to get it back there. She acts like the Nashville statement is the one source of homophobia. And if they say, well, we're not going to expel you for being gay, but we also don't want you to be gay, acting like that's the removal of homophobia. Or acting like that means homophobia is only about the act of being gay. When, as we've discussed here, and I could talk forever about it, but I got some powder to take care of. That could be taken out of context. I keep losing my train of thought. I started thinking about powder. She acts like she's the authority on bigotry. And I'm not saying I'm an authority on bigotry, but she goes, and very smugly, she goes, well, he's not familiar with the opposition. And she acts like this one statement from the Nashville statement is the only thing to discuss in regards to bigotry. And blatantly, she's actively blatantly ignoring the years of political issues and homophobia that has happened systemically and continues to still happen systemically to LGBT people. And she knows this. And you can't just say, well, Biden's president now, so homophobia is solved. There are still lots of Americans fighting to roll back the rights that Biden just put back in place with his gender equality executive order. And just because Biden put in an executive order does not mean homophobia is solved. Bigotry doesn't end the day you put in legislation. There are still people today, yes, it's a shrinking minority, But there are still people today who believe black people and white people shouldn't marry, who don't believe in interracial marriage. And when interracial marriage got legalized, I'm assuming it was illegal at some point. Showing my ignorance, I'm sorry. I'm more educated on current matters like LGBT plus issues. But you know what? Let me stop talking out of my butt. Was interracial marriage illegal? The fact that I'm getting stuff about it became legal. Yes, okay, so it was illegal. The day interracial marriage was legalized did not mean that, oh, nobody hates interracial couples anymore. Oh, there's no more crimes against people interracially married. Oh, like everybody's all hunky-dory. Oh, the people against interracial marriage are only a small minority. Oh, there's going to be no systemic issues that cause issues with interracial marriage after this. We've made it legal, so there's no more issues. Gay marriage was legalized in 2016. The Trump rollbacks happened after 2016. We get another president like Trump, I'm sure they'll go roll back again until we basically make this part of a constitution. I'm not going to pretend I know what the answer is, but I do strongly feel that there needs to be some much stronger protections put in for LGBT plus people, because this thing where it can be wishy-washy and LGBT plus people have to live in fear over like having basic medical rights based on the president shouldn't happen. That I'm going to start getting into it too much. But bigotry isn't defined by being upset about the acts of another person, as we've discussed in this video. Swayzee knows this. Swayzee is doing some weird intentional talking without making a point, and I don't know what has infested her brain, because I've been a follower of her for years, and the reason I felt I had to make this video is because I've been a follower for years, and I felt like nobody was talking about how she misdefined bigotry, so I felt like I had to come in here and say that. And I could talk forever about this and make all of my points about how she misdefined bigotry, and my boyfriend is home with a cornstarch, so I'm gonna go.